the United States. This is with regards to Donald Trump issuing a new threat to Apple, as President Trump has now said that Apple should face a minimum of 25% tariffs on iPhones made outside the United States. And clearly that's a direct threat to Apple's manufacturing plans in India, as we all know. And Donald Trump now coming up with a fresh threat of slapping 25% tariffs as far as iPhones made outside the US are concerned. Pallavi Ghosh joins me with more inputs on that news story. Pallavi, take us through what this could mean for Apple's plans in India.
Well, this would be certainly seen as a bit of a setback, because the entire idea of opening Apple plants over here is that you would get state-of-the-art iPhones which are manufactured in India, which that production has already begun, and which obviously, one, it also goes and shows the confidence of multinational companies into India and investing over here and opening shop over here. And second, there was a belief that it would also mean that products would become much cheaper. Now, recently when Donald Trump had told Tim Cook that you cannot open Apple plants in India, the government sources, Commerce Ministry sources, had also pointed out to say that politicians often don't dictate to the businessmen, and businessmen don't really need to listen to them. And India was very confident that, Tim Cook would not change his mind. Now, this latest comment coming in from the American president will certainly be seen as a setback. We'll have to wait to see if any structured response comes in from the government. But essentially what it would mean is that if an I want to buy a phone which is manufactured over here in India, it is going to end up being much more expensive, which is going to be seen as the end of this investment.
So, Pallavi, what does this mean in the current, trade scenario where, remember, Apple is positioning India as an alternative to China, and we know how Donald Trump is currently threatened by China's manufacturing. But what does that mean for India, and does that also mean that one is now looking at higher iPhone rates? All right, we seem to have lost Pallavi, but as we were highlighting, Apple is, of course, positioning India as an alternative manufacturing base, and Donald Trump's tariffs on China have already raised supply chain concerns and fears of iPhone prices rising higher. And Pallavi is back with us. Let me take that with her. Pallavi, as we were saying, that Apple is one company that's positioning India as an alternative manufacturing base to China. What does that now mean in the overall calculus, the trade calculus? Does that mean that Donald Trump is also equating India with China?
You know what happened is that many of the Apple plants from China were shutting shop, and they were shifting the base into India or looking at India as an alternative market. And obviously, we were very comfortable of this. As the Indian conditions are concerned, and we were obviously very upbeat about it. But now, when you're looking at a situation where, despite the fact that our Commerce Minister is over there, he's expected to come back, there are backroom negotiations, the bilateral trade talks are taking place, and now you have 25%, which is a staggering amount of tariff which is being imposed. India would obviously want to negotiate that. I'm still awaiting some kind of a structured reaction to come in from the Commerce Ministry. But it's very clear that for the American president, when it comes to doing business, China and India, to a very great extent, are put on the same plane. However, sources over here have been maintaining that tariff on China has been much, much higher, and India, in fact, has been much more of a beneficiary as far as America's trade tariff policy.
And that's true, because India sees this as a strength. And remember, Apple and India go back many years ago now. And Apple has invested billions of dollars in India. And could this now mean another setback apart from the tariffs for India, which is currently in the interim negotiations for that bilateral trade agreement?
But I think when Apple had first opened shop over here, it also, as I said, it's working out to be much cheaper. For Indians, Apple manufactured in India obviously would have worked out to be much, much cheaper, which is why there was a lot of enthusiasm over it. And there have been figures which have been put out by the Finance Ministry. We also showed a surge in sales, and especially those iPhones being manufactured right over here in India. As I said, Akansha, it also reflected a deep confidence in India that we had the capability, the credibility, and the manpower talent to manufacture the highest standards of iPhones being manufactured by Apple. This is a setback because obviously, it also means that the iPhones will become much, much more expensive.
Right.
25% is not a small amount.
Right, absolutely. And we await Commerce Ministry's reaction to that. Many thanks to you, Pallavi. In fact, going to request you to continue staying with us because our next story will also require